Welcome back to another episode of Keen on Australia. Today, we're going to talk about something a bit different. The weather. The weather. Yesterday, it was just a little bit hot. Not everywhere in Australia, but we're here on the Gold Coast. We pretty much hit 40 degrees. It was 40 degrees at my house. It was recorded at the Spit, which is not the warmest place on the coast, at 38. Look, as much as I love to say I love the weather and love summer, that was hot. Got a lot of questions about it. A lot of people starting to ask, is what's it like? Is it always like that? Look, that's unusual. It's the second time since I've lived here in 4 years that we've had a temperature like that. So to get that high, and it is the highest recorded temperature ever in October. But a lot of people don't understand with Australia. We're such a big country. The weather is so varied. So prior to that, I was in Melbourne last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I left the Gold Coast about 4 o'clock in the morning. It was 23 degrees. Sun was just coming up. Flew down to Melbourne, get off the plane. It's 11 degrees and raining. It is literally like being in another country. So the day fined up through the day eventually in Melbourne. It started coming all right. Melbourne's been warm again, but the Friday we were in Melbourne, Sydney had 39, I believe. And the difference between Sydney and the Gold Coast, or Melbourne and the Gold Coast when they have their high temperatures, is the humidity. So obviously, the further north you go, the higher the humidity gets. Queensland, I have what we would call a tolerable level of humidity when you get used to it. Um, Sort of November onwards, it gets quite humid. December, January can be very humid. This year, it actually hung out all the way to about March. Depending on obviously what sort of job you're doing, if you've got air conditioning in your home, in your car, all those sorts of things. The humidity can be tough. We were in Cairns in April. And even in April, we found the humidity very, very high. The temperatures were up around 30, but the humidity was up in the high 80s, 90s. And it's the humidity you really notice. The difference with humidity over temperature. In Queensland, it can be 30 degrees, say. You are standing out there in the sun, 30 degrees, you think, man, it's hot. I'll go to the shade. You go into the shade, it is still 30 degrees. High humidity, the temperature just follows. We can be down in Sydney, and I was about November last year, and it was in the high 30s. Everyone was complaining about the heat and how hot it was. You go in the shade, and it's significantly cooler. Breeze feels cool, those sort of things, because they don't have the humidity to back up the temperature. So it is just a little bit different over in Australia. Lots of people ask, where should I move? And again, when we're talking about the weather, it's so different. It depends what you're up to. Personally, I wouldn't live down in Melbourne. Probably wouldn't do Adelaide either. Adelaide's slightly better than Melbourne for not being, look, the term's used a lot that Melbourne has 4 seasons in one day, or the weather's bipolar. It literally just flicks all over the show. You have no idea. You could go into dinner in shorts and a t-shirt, come out from dinner and need a ski jacket. We're up here in Queensland. Our weather's very, very predictable. Today, after our hot day yesterday, they told us tomorrow, which is today, where we're going to be getting 80 mils of rain and it'll only be 21, 22 degrees. That's exactly what it was. So in Queensland, I find the weather can be very, very predictable. If they say it's sunny in the weekend, it's sunny in the weekend. If they say it's going to rain, it rains. Where the further south you go, obviously you're starting to get closer to the Antarctic, and the weather is very, very different. Literally, Melbourne can get that same sort of icy cold wind that like Bluff in New Zealand gets. But then on the other hand, it can get extreme hot temperatures like Queenstown in New Zealand gets. So it is quite a different. And then, of course, you can go right across the other side of the country in Perth, and it can be completely different again. Perth has generally higher temperatures than Melbourne, and it can get even higher temperatures than Queensland, but it also doesn't have the humidity. So luckily, it's a bit lower away from the equator, so it doesn't attract as much of that humidity. And then you've got the places that no one lives, like the middle of the country. Hey, there's a few people at places like Alice Springs and things like that, but it is a desert. So it can be freezing cold at night, like literally freezing, and then 45, 50 degrees during the day. So it's not very hospitable. That's why there's not a lot of people who live there, and that's why I think it's 94 or 95% of the entire population of Australia live on the coast. And it's just to do with the weather. As far as you go, keep going up the country. You get up even at Townsville or above. Cairns definitely, Darwin for sure. You're starting to get into your tropical climates up there. So humidity all year round, higher temperatures all year round, pretty similar temperature every day. And then it basically has instead of a winter and a summer season, it has a wet and a dry season. Temperature doesn't really change a lot. like when you get used to it, it's great. We've been living here on the coast now a while, and we find anything under probably about 19 degrees, 18 degrees, you start looking for a jumper or a jersey. It doesn't feel bone chilling cold. Like I don't ever remember being cold like I was in New Zealand, where it was right through to your bones and you had to have a cold shower before you had a hot shower to warm up and all those sorts of things. It's nothing like that. But once you get used to living in 30 degrees all the time, going down to 18 does feel cold. Today felt cold even at 22 after being 40 the day before. Was 40 enjoyable? No, it's not. It's too much. It is hot. I'd hate to be a heavy physical job like a delivery driver or a tradie or something like that. But a lot of them obviously pick and choose what jobs they're on, and they are careful with what they do. But if you're in any sort of office job or anything in retail or bars or any of those sort of things, yeah, air conditioning, you don't really notice it. Air conditioning in the car, all those sorts of things. What comes with the extreme weather like that? Hail. Hail is a big thing. See a lot of hail damaged vehicles, broken windows, those sort of things here. We can get hail the size of golf balls quite regularly. And then obviously the further south you go, you've got the Blue Mountains. You can get things like snow. There's ski fields in Victoria and Queensland, and sorry, New South Wales. We even had snow here in Queensland this year. So it was I think it was Strathpine had snow. And it was that exciting that people drove out there and stayed in hotels to see it because from Queensland, snow is just almost unheard of. We had quite a cold winter this year. I think the lowest temperature we saw was about 11 degrees, which for the Gold Coast is very, very cold. But when you go down south, even places inland like Orange and Bathurst, it's not uncommon for them to get frosts. Melbourne can get down to zero. Adelaide definitely can. Like most houses in Adelaide will have a fire, or definitely a heat pump, an air conditioning unit running backwards. But yeah, like it's been great. The only thing that's a bit weird at the moment is obviously we're in daylight savings mode now. Queensland and Perth and WA, we're the two places that don't play the silly game and change the clocks. The rest of Australia does. Literally, for me, I was dropping someone to the airport this morning. We got just to the edge of the airport and proceeded to go into New South Wales to go around the bottom and come to the airport. You drive over a line and the clocks change by an hour. Then you drive back over the line another 5 minutes later and you're back in Queensland and the clocks change again by an hour. Like it's not something I'm a big fan of. I reckon it's completely stupid and it changes nothing in the day other than what the clock says. But yeah, unfortunately, Sydney, Melbourne changed their clocks for daylight savings, and you've just got to watch for that, especially if you're booking meetings or times with anyone in regards to your move. You need to make sure what time zone they're in and what time zone they're booking in. Very easy for us to book someone to into a meeting in Tweed Heads, which is just over the border, and they're in a completely different time zone by an hour, and they don't realize. Um, and like I say, it makes it a bit confusing. So you just got to monitor and watch that. The other one that's a bit strange and different, Adelaide and Darwin, I believe, are the only places in the world that have a time zone by half an hour. So most time zones you see are 1 hour intervals. So obviously you see the time 1 hour different to where you are. So Sydney, Melbourne, when they're on daylight savings, are 1 hour different to us. But if you go across say America, all the time zones are 1 hour difference. But like say Adelaide, for some reason, actually let's just Google it. Adelaide have a half hour time zone. Um, there's not. It just says they've lobbied it to change it to be closer to Melbourne time. And oh, there we go. How Australian is this? South Australia advanced Central Standard Time by 30 minutes after lobbying by businesses who wanted to be closer to Melbourne time, and cricketers and footballers who wanted more daylight to play in. How Australian is that? Why would we change the time? Oh, so there's more time after work to play cricket. That's about as Aussie as it gets. Personally, I don't get it. Like you finish work when you finish work, and what time on the clock is irrelevant. Personally, I think it would make more sense to start 1 hour earlier in summer and not actually change the clock. But hey, each to their own. Some people love it. So hopefully that's helped you with understanding a bit of the weather around Australia. Obviously, it can be very varied. If you're going to move anywhere and you want to know anything about it, always reach out or ask in groups. Lots of people who live there will tell you different things. Don't think moving to Australia that the entire country is hot all the time. There are some very, very cold places in Australia. Hopefully that's giving you some more hints and tips on weather. We've got some great shows coming up, so keep an eye out for them. As always, these are educational shows, always general and advice, but if you need specific advice, reach out to the right people. And we hope we see you soon on another episode of Keen on Australia.